our electronic careers really took off, I think, when we were still teaching at Indiana University at South Bend. And somewhere around 1972 or 73, we got a Synthi 100 due to the advocacy of our tech director, Bruce Hemingway.
1973.
Bruce was the one who really understood the possibilities of this marvelous instrument. This was state-of-the-art at the time. It had 20 oscillators and 10 filters, or 12 filters, and it had a digital sequencer, the first commercially available large-scale digital sequencer, which was velocity, real-time, velocity-sensitive. So, you know, it was really state-of-the-art, and we had the only one in the country. And we wrote a lot of our major pieces at that time, between 73 and, well, in the later 70s, until they yanked the instrument out from under our noses because the university wasn't able to pay for it.
They had paid a down payment on it, and it lasted a year and a half. And my first piece, Dance of Dawn, was my first professional piece. Dance of Dawn was created almost the day they delivered it to the day they took it out. They took it out 1 week after I finished the piece. I was frantically working 22-hour days and trying to finish that piece because we knew that they were coming from England to take back the instrument.
That was quite a successful piece, and we got a number of reviews of Major Review and Audio Magazine. High Fidelity did an article on it. Several of CRI's albums, and they featured 10 of the CRI's 10 best albums. And that was the name of the article, High Fidelity. And so this was the only electronic one on the 10 albums. So we felt good about that. And it really got a lot of play.
The interesting thing is that it's coming back now. CRI is re-releasing the album on a CD. Of course, CDs are almost twice as long as records, so more than twice, no, almost twice as long.
Yeah.
So they're re-releasing that plus our Folkways recording, so putting them together into an album of early electronic music called, what is it called? Golden Age of Electronic Music.
The Mclean Mix and the Golden Age of electronic music.
Yeah.
Along about that, speaking of Folkways, we started getting some interest from Ilhan Mimraglu, who hooked us up with Folkways with Moses Ash. Moses Ash was one of the original pioneers of indigenous recording. He was one of the first ones to go into Africa and Latin America with a microphone and record. And he was a wonderful old guy. He was in his 80s when we knew him, but he considered electronic music to be the folk music of America. And so, since it was Folkways recordings, so we kind of hooked onto that angle. And he commissioned us to write a rather substantial commission to do an album called Electronic Music from the Outside In, it was kind of a how-to, how to write electronic music. We actually brought the listener into the studio and assembled sections of the piece, section by section. And Priscilla's Invisible Chariots was on that. That had also appeared earlier on a Folkways, the full album on a Folkways recording. And so we did 4 albums with Folkways, and 2 of them were commissions. The other one was computer music from the outside in, when we featured the Fairlight Fairlight computer music instrument. And
which was the first. Well, that was the first university, right, in America to have the Fairlight. This is 19 what?
So we seem to stumble into these situations, whereas before we were the first university, the studio that I directed was the first university studio to have a commercially available a hybrid digital analog and digital sequencer, the Synthi 100. And then at the University of Texas, which we went to in 1976, in 1981 we bought Fairlight Computer Music Instruments, which was the first in the country.
The university bought.
Yeah,
We
right.
never bought one.
The first in the country using sampling. It preceded the EMU, it preceded Ensoniq, it preceded all these instruments. It was the first, bar none, the first viable sampler, and so we had a lot of fun going around
Barton.
the country demonstrating it, and actually Fairlight Computer, the company, their distributor was in LA, and LA people were always coming to Texas, and we were doing a lot of development work with the software, and so it was a really exciting time.
But I always felt that the few pieces that I would do should stand up to listening without seeing, that should stand up to listening to several times and be interesting 10, 20 years later. That's very difficult when you're in a field that's brand new and the equipment is changing yearly and it's not maybe up to the specs of 5 years in the future. So I just stayed back from the digital until I felt that we ourselves had acquired some really sophisticated samplers, and well, we now have the wave station. All of these things, of course, are off the market again. But they're so nice to work with. I really don't care now. The ASR-10, which is the sampler, and the Korg wave station, the digital synthesizer, a lot of effects processors and other things.
We feel that a technique has to ripen to a certain degree before it has lasting musical value, and we are really more interested in the music than we are in the techniques of it. And so I think our legacy, if there be one, should be the music that we have created.
You know, you develop something or you buy something, and then 2 years later it doesn't exist anymore, and it's outmoded, and people are saying, "Oh, that sound, you know, oh, that's an old sound, you know." And if there's going to be any lasting value to classical electronic music, it's going to have to come from the joy of the music itself, beyond the instruments and beyond the electronics and the technique.